And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are leads on game development and design here at Codename.
Not only that, we also founded Codename too.
No, that's true. And we're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
We're still holding on to that.
Yep. Notice that the questions are coming in very slow. Are people trying to make me do a one-man show? Anyway, today is our 133rd episode.
That's right. We're 1/3 of the way to 400 episodes.
Not quite.
Well, in about 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, okay. I suppose that math checks out. At least that's assuming we didn't start the episode late for technical reasons.
Well, I mean, there's just no way to tell if that will happen, since we're writing the script ahead of time.
Yeah, I suppose we could just pivot in the moment based on whether or not we ended up starting late.
No, I think we just leave the whole discussion in the script. It'll give the people more time to ask questions.
Right, yeah. Today we are here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions.
And incidentally, we did start on time without any technical issues.
That's so weird.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Okay. At any rate, if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, really, the first third of James Cameron's Titanic.
That's right, yeah. I'm only doing the first third because that's all we have time for in the hour, because the movie was 3 hours long.
You can't, just speed things up a bit?
Dude, you can't speed up true love. Jack and Rose deserve to have their entire story told without skipping anything.
So, therefore, you're only going to tell the first third?
Don't you get all logical with me. I don't like that.
You know they wanted a Star Trek reference.
You
didn't give them a Star Trek reference.
Episode. Yeah, we didn't. Sorry.
Also, Titanic. That is
the script
that is old. That is an old reference.
I was just looking for a 3-hour movie, man. I mean,
you could have gone with Lord of the Rings.
What, the extended edition? That's like
Sure.
4 hours. That's too much. It doesn't fit with the theme of the 1/3.
Just claim it was 3 hours. It'd be fine.
Anywho.
All right. Anyway, as always, we have pulled forward some questions from the previous show that we didn't get to, and we will answer some of those while we are waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, I want to say that I have updates on items flagged to get looked into by the dev team. I really do want to say that, but Peter is out this week, and I don't have an updated list. The only thing I do have is an update that the memory improvements that we were making for iOS are basically set and ready to go. We are just, again, waiting to release those next week when Peter is back, just in case something goes terribly sideways. We don't want to do that while he's away. But those are prepped and ready to launch, so we will be rolling those out early next week. Let's move on to the leftover questions. First question, leftover from last week's show, is from Foolish Genius 89 asking, do you intend on making terminology changes when the new player's handbook arrives, particularly race to species?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think there's some stuff that we could probably pretty easily pivot on, race to species being one of them. There's other stuff that it might be a little bit harder, but I think we'll kind of be looking at things on a case-by-case basis once that new player's handbook is released.
Yeah,
which is soon, I think.
It's one of those things as editions change, and obviously this is an edition change, it's just an update, but as editions change and you're kind of locked into a previous, a video game type setup. I mean, most games don't go back and change that. We're kind of in an odd situation because it's all live service.
Yeah, some stuff would be easy, changing just words around, like race to species, that's pretty easy. But if they were to change, the number of ability scores or something like that, something more fundamental, we'd have a hard time going back and doing that for every single champion. Or, individual, champion, class features, if we reference those on some of the older champions, and then they change those in the new edition, we probably wouldn't immediately go back. But if we go back and rework those champions, maybe we'd look at it then. So
yeah, it's definitely on a case-by-case basis as what may or may not get applied. And of course only because, we are mentioned a live service game, so we can change those things.
We can, yeah.
I think even some of the older, I was just thinking cases where this has happened before, and I think was it the Neverwinter Nights game, or Neverwinter, the MMO when the versions changed, they didn't go back and shift anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's like D&D Online still running like some 3rd edition stuff in there, so yeah. The next question here is from Psycod79, who asked last week, scientific notation, any chance that it becomes the default option? I know as a newer player, it was much easier for me to understand the progression than the default system.
Yeah, on that one, it may very well be, I would guess you're probably in the minority on that one. Most people, I don't know, say most people. I have to get a survey on this, but I do know that
survey,
scientific notation is not something that sort of everybody widely knows. I know that when I used to do tickets, I used to get on a regular basis tickets from players who had accidentally hit the hotkey to turn the notation into scientific notation, and they did not know what it was, recognize it, and were really distraught about changing it back to something that they could read. So I don't think that would be something that we would leave as a default option, but as stated, it is certainly an option you can just turn on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's one of those really weird things where I think there's good arguments in both directions, and so we just have to kind of make a call for which one we think is going to be easier for players to understand.
Well, I mean, out of the gate, players there are players who wouldn't know what it was, so and we kind of have to start with one that from the
But even the numbers,
level,
they might not know what those are.
Well, once you get past
figure out
T, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah,
they sort of, it kind of breaks down after that.
It happens pretty quickly, but yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's see. I was saying the letter system is like no, it makes sense up until T, and then it starts
up until after trillions.
People typically don't necessarily know the names for the numbers after that, but it is at least the name of the English word that is the number.
Yes, to a certain
except for
extent.
K.
Kilo.
Oh, it's kilo.
Yeah. No, it's a weird one. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on to another question.
Next question. This is from Garwar. Why have Xander and Vin Ursa's achievements not been moved into the Founders Day achievements? Why, Justin?
I think that was just an oversight. I will copy that one into our quick and easy doc, and hopefully we can get that one fixed. We did have, because of how Events 2.0 worked, we had to kind of move certain champions' achievements around into the new events where they would sort of more permanently stay. And so it is something we have to make sure that we're going through and doing on each event. As we kind of get to them, and it sounds like it probably just slipped through the cracks on this one. So should be a super easy fix, and they'll be in the place where they ought to be.
Fair enough. Okay, on to this week's questions. First question today is from Weffin. Why do patron chests, 5,000 patron currency cost, not count for the achievement can't stop, must shop?
Yeah, I looked up the achievement here, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't count.
What is the details of the achievement?
So it's the achievement can't stop, must shop. Whoever named that's a jerk, probably me. Is to purchase 200 items from the patron shop using patron currency. And so I'm not 100% sure why chests wouldn't work for that. It's possible that they did work at some point, and some sort of change in the code just made it so they don't stop anymore, or don't count anymore.
Can't stop.
Did stop.
Don't stop.
Wow. Yeah, we'll make sure that is working, because I can't think of any reason why that shouldn't. My first impression when I saw it was, maybe there's some sort of reason why we wouldn't want those to count, but like 5,000 patron currency is a fine cost to count towards that. Like, you can get stuff cheaper that I assume would count. And there aren't enough items in the patron shop that aren't like reusable or repurchasable that we would have made that achievement for, intending you to only buy the non-repeatable things. So
plus, we probably would have called it out in the achievement description.
Yeah.
Sort of purchase any item except for that one, but we're not going to tell you which one.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, most of the time we call that out.
All right. Next question. This is from Gauntlet Blade. Can we get an update on replaying non-patron variants?
Yes. So this is, I mean, the update is, I don't have a timeline for you or an update on it. It is something that we're thinking about maybe doing. I'm just not 100% sure how. I guess I can talk about this again. So we've talked about this a couple of times on the channel and in the show. And the reason that we don't allow it is because there are some variants out there that they just have mechanics in them that are really advantageous for certain situations, and we didn't necessarily balance things around being able to engage with those situations on a continuous basis, which means we don't really want you to spend a lot of time in there. But on the other hand, there's sort of the other side of the coin where if people know about that, they will hold on to those and use those to their advantage anyway. So it's kind of unfair that other players can't get in there and use those situations. So it is something that is on our list to think about. I'm not sure it's as high a priority as some other things on the list, which we've got a bunch of questions about here now. But yeah, it's something that we still need to think about and figure out what kind of solution we want to have for that. And I know one of the solutions we talked about last time was maybe having some of those situations occur naturally in certain free plays or in some other place where they are accessible in some way. But I think, I don't know, we have to think about it some more.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. This question is from Vovkas asking, last summer I was asking, can we hope for zone cap increases until the end of 2024? You told possibly 2023, 99% 2024. And after 1 year, is it happening soon? With all those legendaries, 2000 is too easy. Also a suggestion, 2000 is a lot of zones and takes too long. 3000 would be even longer and boring. How about increasing the overall monster health everywhere instead of zone cap to make it more challenging? Not just plus 100 E for a new campaign, but everywhere.
Yeah, so the zone cap increase is something I still want to do this year. We're actually starting to put together a sort of big balance update with a bunch of stuff that people have been asking for. So there's questions here about Party 5 and Briv Skip, and I don't see anything about Narak here today, but there's some of stuff like that. The Spurt Ultimate stuff. What are some other things that we want to fit in there? Fenn's ability, being able to work over multiple parties. Dungeon Master picking a whole seat instead of an individual champion, stuff like that. So things like that, we want to try and kind of bundle them together into a big fun update that everyone can get excited about. And I think putting in an area cap would be something that we'd probably want to put in there. Yeah, the Artemis Yorvin interaction, anything that gives you sort of infinite DPS or infinite survivability are things we want to address if we can. So yeah, we want to get that in before the end of the year. No guarantees on that, but that's kind of just what we want to do at this point in time.
This is 99%.
We'll kind of see.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if they're not quoting you precisely, maybe it's 99%.
Yeah, it's 99%, but there's still a 1% chance that it doesn't happen.
Okay. All right. Next question. You alluded to this. This is from Raquel or Rakul. Any news on party number 5?
Yes, so that's tied to the question I just answered, where we want to include, potentially include Party 5 in that big balance update if we do decide to do Party 5 this year. I think we're looking pretty decent in terms of just the performance with 4 parties. Mm-hmm. And I think we're probably at the point where we could do another one if we wanted to. It's just a matter of what kind of other impacts that could potentially have on the game.
Party of 5. No, it's Mambo number 5.
Party 5, you can only use 5 champions, yeah.
Yes.
It's Party of 5. Party 5 of 5.
It's a new challenge party. Instead of increasing the enemy health, we just decrease the number of champions you can have.
That would significantly decrease the amount of damage you could do.
Yes. Non-linearly.
Very non-linearly.
Okay.
Linearly.
Next question. This is from Arandram. Is there any particular reason that Sir Barrington, I think the game calls him Umberto, has an item scaling from 250% instead of 275% for his specs for the Epic slot 5, rarity 4, item ID 3,597.
Thank you for the item ID.
Very specific. We're on this. When the common, uncommon, and rare versions match the values of 275% epics, and it's an outlier that costs power.
So the answer to this is no. That appears to have been a typo. I actually looked at this today and have fixed it on dev. So the next time we do a data push out to the live servers, that will be fixed up to 275 as it should be. I'm actually not sure at all how that got set to the wrong number.
250 from 270 feels like. I don't know how you typo that. I think someone just must have thought it was supposed to be 250 or something.
It's one of those weird things because equipment is always there's two types of equipment, right? There's equipment that scales
good equipment
to
and bad equipment.
There's equipment that scales to 275 and there's equipment that scales to 100%, and they always have the same percentages. So
you'd think that someone would just copy and paste the record.
I would have thought that someone would have copy and pasted the record and not had to have
typed it in by hand.
But apparently, that did happen. So, yeah, that should be fixed the next time we do a push.
When did you change that? Sorry, because we did a push
I fixed that
today.
At, let me see, when did
because I pushed the data at 10:30.
1:15.
Oh, okay. So
about an hour ago.
Okay. So it is not out.
No.
Alrighty then. Next question. This is from Xavian 2018. Any update on what you are planning to do about Briv? Feet or cap? What are we doing about Briv?
What are we doing? Well, that's the trouble with Briv. Yeah. So our current plan with Briv for this kind of mega balance update thing is to, at this point, just do 2 feats. One that caps at 9 jump, and one that caps at the most recent whole number. So folks who are pushing for 11 jump or 12 jump or whatever can use that second feat, so they'll have the highest ever jump they get. People who are just content with 9 jump, who want to gem farm without hitting any bosses or whatever, can equip the 9 jump one, and that'll cap in the same way that the 4 jump one currently does. So that's the plan right now. We've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, the 4 jump feat would stay as well. So there'd be three feats total. And if we ever got to the point where the item levels were getting so frickin' ridiculous that we had a large number of people who had 14 jump and didn't want to go above that, we could just add in a 14 jump feat as well.
You're gonna need that if you push the level cap to 3,000.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't think increasing the area cap would actually impact the rates all that much. Though I guess adding a 5th party might add a little bit more. So that's the current plan. Again, nothing's written in stone. It hasn't been implemented in the game yet. That's just the plan for it. So we will see how that goes.
Okay. Next question. This is from Garwar.
Shoot, I was going to look this up.
Is the Laura supposed to earn stacks for the areas she rushes past, or just for the areas she completes after she rushes? As written, it feels like it should be the latter, but currently functions as the former.
Yes. Let me pull up Thalora's design doc and check out what we say here. Plateaus of Unicorn Run.
The whole thing's red and crossed out. It's been replaced with something different.
That's because we changed the description of it afterwards. What's it? Means for every 10 areas she completes in a stack says rush target. I don't know. I mean, I could go either way on this. I think having it skip or having it count areas she's skipped it isn't necessarily the end of the world. You kind of, it's not like you can perpetually get further and further with that, because it's a certain number of areas skipped. Gets her a smaller number of areas of rush stacks. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a problem that it functions the way it does. If the language is confusing, then that's something we can certainly take another look at. It looks like we already did do a rewrite of her ability here at some
Sure
point
did.
post launch.
It's like a whole paragraph crossed out.
Yeah, but yeah, we can take another look at that language. I'll just make a note here.
Okay.
Look at the language. Yeah.
Take a pass on the language. Let's move on to the next question, if you can figure out how to highlight that.
I can figure out how to highlight things. This is not my first day using Google Docs.
Not your first rodeo. This question is from Extraversion. Why can't Nahara join the Aeon event variant 2 when this week's patron is Strahd and it reads that any champion qualifies that is eligible for Strahd? Nahara is always eligible for Strahd. What up?
Okay, so there's two things here. One, I was looking up when I saw this question, because I know there's a bug of some sort with that variant where we couldn't quite we had to hard code the patron, and it's currently hard coded to be Vajra, which is probably what's happening here. I think it probably should have been. Oh, it's been changed in the past hour?
That's
That's
the thing that I pushed, right?
That's what you were pushing?
That's what I was pushing.
Okay, so then that's probably what happened there. Is it was hard coded to Vajra because there was a bug with it properly detecting the eligible patron for the week for Aeon, and so that'll have to get updated again next Monday. But
Right. Actually, now that I think about it, that wasn't specifically why I was pushing, but that I think got fixed just before I did the push.
yes,
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the issues. The other one, I'm not 100% sure about. I'd have to look up Nahara's design just to double check if she's immediately eligible or becomes eligible through a spec. I think she's always eligible, isn't she? Or is it? Yeah. Anyway, I think there is some issue with Aeon based on whether or not they're eligible right out of the gate or eligible via Dungeon Master or being brought in some other way. But that might be it's her passive, so she's always so she should be available for that now that it's been fixed. So hopefully this question is now no longer relevant.
Okay.
Hopefully we've already fixed this.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Next question. So this one here, Justin, this was funny because we talked about the next one.
That's not here that you highlighted. Oh, okay.
Yes, because I believe last time you did your own impression of Peter being told that Freely's adventure was not updating in the background.
Yes.
Which he bid pretty verbatim during our update that you were out for.
So yes, this is from Callius. Callius TV asked, any update on Freely's adventurous tale in the background? Apparently it works when the game is turned off, but not when running.
Yeah.
That's more information that we didn't have
So
before.
definitely, as we were talking about last week, whenever we tell Peter about this, he says, but I tested it and it works. And so one of the things that he'd actually been tracking down with us, because he was continuing to get tickets about it, was that it appeared to him that the people who were reporting it were ones that got to Area 2000 before completing it. And there was something about that Area 2000 issue that there might have, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. He said there was some kind of a special case in there for Area 2000 that may not have been causing it, or may have been causing it not to trigger the way it was supposed to be triggering. And so testing prior to Area 2000 it would have worked, but testing to Area 2000 would have caused the issue to happen. And so I think on that lead he was looking into it further, but I don't have any further update from that. But it seemed promising that if the accounts that were reporting it were all reporting that it was Area 2000, that potentially had something to do with it when, of course, Peter was testing it below that and it was working. So fingers crossed he may have more insight on that, and maybe that's something that can get fixed. But he's on vacation this week, so it'll have to wait until next week. Next question. This is from Garwar. Should spending favor on legendary upgrades during a run also reduce your gold find during that run when spending favor for the campaign you are in? Currently, it does not reduce gold find, allowing people to level up legendaries and then continue playing for more favor.
Yeah,
there's an exploit.
This is part of the reason why we've been talking about just removing the favor cost and just keeping the favor requirement on legendaries is because there's this kind of exploit where you can just kind of push to your max and then do your legendary leveling and then just reset to get a bunch of that favor back. The fact that your gold mine isn't updated when you spend favor, that does sound like a bug. I'm not sure. I assume there's not a similar bug where if you buy blessings during a run that your gold find doesn't get affected. But there may very well be.
We would have accounted for that.
I feel like we should have caught that.
And if there was a bug there that within the last 7 years we would have noticed.
Somebody would have noticed it, but
if you could exploit it, sometimes that sort of thing doesn't get shared.
Yeah, legendaries have been around for a while too, and this is the first time I've heard of this not done it. Yeah, I would expect it to happen if you do a party swap, or I might expect it to happen if you were to do something else that affects your gold find, like swap in or out a gold find champion, anyone that would cause your gold find to completely recalculate. But maybe we're smart about how we cache that, and it doesn't completely recalculate your gold find, just recalculates the part that champion was contributing to. That would be the smart way to do it, but
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. This is from Ranram. Could we have a current total counter on the collection completionist blessing for Light of Xerxes that came in with the Strong Heart updates? It is a bit hard to know how it's doing when there's no quest counter anywhere to be seen, even in the collections interface itself.
Yes, that sounds like something we can do.
Are you just highlighting all the things?
We're just highlighting all the things. This is what happens when
That'll
Peter
teach
goes
Peter
away.
to go on vacation. Okie dokie. Next question here is from Lexinum. Actually, it says more than a suggestion. More than a suggestion? There's champs who have thousands or tens of thousands of levels. Can we get an option to level champs 1,000 levels at a time?
Good question.
What does it cap out right now?
Right now it's 100, and then it's upgrade, to the next upgrade. And generally, the 100 one's going to give more. There's maybe a very few champions who have the option. This is potentially something we can do. I think it'd probably be a lower sort of a lower priority, because it is going to definitely the number of people who this is going to be relevant to is going to be quite low, and I wouldn't want to necessarily confuse newer players by having a times 1,000 option that is really just equivalent to a level to max for them.
Times 1,000. They're going to look at it and think, how high do these levels go?
Yeah, well, they go quite high. But yeah, it's something to think about. It's another one of these things where I wish we had kind of some sort of milestoning system in the game to unlock features like this for later on. I guess Collection Quest could do that.
Well, we don't. It does not exist.
Well, we do. Guide Quests. Collection Quest. They could do it. We could do it in there.
Guide Quest. They're just slowing down the save call.
Well, there's that. All right. It looks like it's time to run our world famous, stream famous 42 chest giveaway. Now, if you've been in our chat before, you know exactly what to do. So do that. If you haven't been in our chat before, then you don't know what to do, and I'm about to tell you. So the way it works is, wow, I gotta make this new every time. The way it works is there will be a magic keyword in chat.
Today's giveaway is a house.
We're giving away a house?
That's what it says.
Oh, no, that's a different person.
Oh.
So yeah, all you have to do is copy that keyword, which today is 1/3. I don't know if the capital O matters or not. Into the chat, and you'll be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. You can pick any type of chest that exists in the game. Any type, except for Glory Bahamut chests.
And that's only because
Only for historical meme reasons.
on a whim.
But yeah, you can choose gold chests. You can choose gold champion chests, specific champion. You can go back if you really like seasons and choose season chests, I guess. Modron component chests would be what I would go for, because those things are tough to get, I tell you. But what other type of chests are there?
I'm a big fan of the mechanics chest. I also like a toolmaker's chest, maybe a knife edge chest. An engineering chest is always useful. I also like a brick chest. It's good if you can get your hand on a lineman's chest, or maybe a welder chipping chest.
This is a hard one, dude.
What about a claw chest? Maybe a dead blow chest. A ball peen chest? Is that something that's
ball
going to...
Types of hammers.
There
I think
we
that's
go.
right. Types of hammers. Truon Hida got it first, I think. And then everyone got it. What was the one that put it over?
Ball peen.
Ball peen?
Yeah, ball peen.
Ball peen?
Ball peen.
Can we say ball peen a whole bunch of times without getting demonetized?
It's a type of hammer.
Okay.
You know, it's got the ball and use it for
Yeah.
hanging.
What do you use it for?
Shaping sheet metal.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's something we all do in our off time.
Yeah, I used it for like a long while ago when I was repairing my truck, like back when I was a teenager. And you use like a heavy weight behind it, and you hit the ball peen, you hammer against that, and that's the actually holding of the weight against it. It's got a flat surface that smooths out the metal.
There you go.
True story. I'm sure there are other uses
Who
for it
says
too.
we're not educational here on Dev Insights?
Oh, pretty much everybody.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Next question. This is from PsyCod79. Will variants become for all patrons? I cannot complete the Force Grey Unleashed with Strad in Waterdeep, for example.
Yes, very good question. So there are historically there have been some patron variants that have not been available for certain patrons because either the key champion for that variant is not eligible for the variant. So for example, I think we've got one where you must use Minx, and only champions adjacent to Minx can deal damage. And I'm probably mispronouncing Minx as well. So I should just stop doing variants where that champion is a key champion. And so if you have a patron where you can't use them, then you can't have any champions who can deal damage, because you can't have any champions who are adjacent to them. So there are cases like that where historically we've just been like, well, we're just not going to have that variant be eligible because it's basically impossible. You can only use click damage, basically. In the more modern day, you've got a lot of situations where you can pull other champions in. So the Minx one's a bad example, but there are...
It's like a small furry animal.
There are...
You're going to make a coat?
Little Minx coat. Minsk. There are some patron variants before that we didn't allow because there were simply no eligible champions for them. So for example, say you had a variant where you could only use champions with an intelligence of 10 or lower. Obviously, Strahd has a requirement of 12 or higher intelligence, so you wouldn't be able to use any champions in that. Now, modern day, there are champions that are available for all patrons, regardless of the restrictions. So for example, Dungeon Master, Dark Urge, and then Dungeon Master can pull another champion in, and there are other champions that can pull other champions in. So that issue has kind of been addressed simply by game mechanics at this point. So I did do a pass recently looking for variants that were not allowed in certain patrons, and there's not many of them left. And it is a to-do item on my list, low priority. Unfortunately, not a high priority item, but there's a low priority item on my list to go through and just remove the restrictions for ones where it doesn't make any sense. So there are some that need to be updated. I wouldn't expect all of them to necessarily be updated. The Minsk one is a good example of one that is just impossible, essentially, without being able to use Minsk.
Okay. I'm just laughing at Lurking Writer's comment. Bless you, Justin, for providing David and us with wonderful comedy every week. Even the intentional stuff.
What? We don't do any intentional comedy on our show. What are you talking about? Serious business.
But we make games.
Games are serious, man.
Okay.
This is a serious game with no comedy. Any comedy is unintentional. I can't even say that with a straight face. Next question here is from Raycool, who asks, why not add, this is in reference back to the question earlier about scientific notation,
Yes.
why not add a pop-up box saying, now use scientific notation when you use the pop-up?
Now using
scientific
notation.
When you use the pop-up.
Pop-up?
What pop-up?
I think maybe
Pop-up
they're
for your
talking
pop-up?
about the hotkey that I was talking about.
Oh.
I mean, I think that sort of the context was that there were a number of report or tickets that I used to see, and I'm sure Taylor still sees, of people accidentally hitting that button. That's not a bad idea for something like that. I do think it's the kind of thing that might be a little obtrusive when switching between it on purpose. So there's that, which is a little bit tricky. If it was something that appeared and then disappeared, players might not see it. So sort of the choice there would be between having an intrusive dialogue when switching or not showing one. I'm not sure that it's necessarily the end of the world that players report that and then we let them know that there's a hotkey for it, because it didn't happen that frequently, more like once or twice a month. It was just sort of anecdotal evidence on my side that was saying that players, when they did switch it, didn't know what scientific notation was, which to me indicates that there's certainly at least a fairly large body of people who when they see it are not familiar with it, which is why it wouldn't necessarily make sense to have it as the default. Yeah. All right. Next question, Justin. I think this is also directed my way.
Let me come back. Let me scroll back up here. Next question is from Sandbox JJ, who asks, great question. They say,
Yes.
I am primarily an iOS phone and iPad player, and I'm still getting some crashes. Last Dev Insights, you guys said you might be aware of some trouble. Was that fix implemented, or should I get some device info? Thanks.
Yeah, so at the top of the show, actually, I did give an update on this, and that is that we do have the build for that updated and ready to go. We didn't roll it out this week because Peter, who primarily handles the iOS builds, is out on vacation this week, and we didn't want to risk that if those fixes went out and had an issue, that it was going to require us to make a new build. There's sort of some fairly significant changes on that kind of across the board, and so when we do sort of more major changes like that, we definitely want to stand by and make sure that if something does go wrong, we can quickly roll something out. And so without Peter on hand to get another rollout for that, we're just playing it safe and waiting for him to get back from vacation next week to push that out. But that should go out early next week, and then we should see at least, I mean, from our testing, we reduced the memory on that by about 30%, which on some of the older devices, like I've got an older, sort of a funny way to describe this one, because it's sort of still a perfectly good device, which was my iPad from 2017, just the standard one.
2017, it's ancient.
I know. But they only have 2 gigs of RAM, and that means the system, from a game side, because a bunch of that's reserved for the OS, is only allowed to use 1.5. And so we're pretty tight on that. The game tends to use sort of just idling around a gig to 1200, and it spiked when loading things. We did make a number of changes, particularly around like the time gate dialog, which if you opened did end up loading like 200 megs worth of graphics, which was enough to actually just bump you over.
That optimization also would go out to other platforms.
And it did,
as well.
yeah. So that optimization is actually out on Steam
Right.
And Epic. But on platforms like that, on your PC platform, going up 200 megs doesn't pose an issue, whereas on iOS, that was enough, especially on those older devices with a 1.5 gigabyte cap for applications, did push it over the top. And there was a couple of other cases like that we looked at, sort of optimizing so that didn't happen. And parts of it also, there were issues where while loading, there would be a spike, and then that loading spike would go back down once loading was completed. But if you didn't have, if it went over the cap, then that was too late. Yeah. So.
You know, I have it on good authority that no program will ever need more than 640K of RAM.
Yes.
Very good authority. Very smart people saying such things.
When did Gates say that? Like 87
in the 80s
or something like
Yeah.
that. So, yeah.
Long before there were iPads with their
Yes.
limited memory.
Okay, next question. This is from the Lurking Writer asking, can Lucius Main Chromat abilities please be updated so that they show the actual damage output rather than their base values? They have item support that is supposed to increase their power, but said power is not shown anywhere on the character sheet. I believe this has been requested before, and it was put on a list.
Yes.
But I don't know which list.
It is on a list. It's on. I'm sure it's on the dev list because I've highlighted this in yellow multiple times. I will highlight it in yellow again, and we'll get an update on that and see where it is on that list. I'm sure it is on the list of things to be fixed because yeah, it's been brought up multiple times.
The Lurking Writer says first PC had 10 megs hard drive and 16 megs of RAM. That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right. 16 megs of RAM? Are you kidding me?
Sounds really high.
Yeah, that does sound really high.
Yeah, I'm going to call you on that one.
I don't know that I had 16 megs of RAM until I had like my, well, what did my
Typically
Pentium
the hard drive is
133?
bigger than the RAM.
Yeah.
So
I think my first
maybe
386
you need 16
had,
kilobytes of RAM.
my first 386 had I think 2 megs of RAM and like
Yeah.
a 40 meg hard drive, which we then compressed half of to make it effectively like 55 or 60 or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, those were the days.
And mine was a 640 meg hard drive, and it had 8 megs of RAM.
Remember the good old days when you needed like a boot floppy to like boot with less RAM so that you could play certain games?
You had to modify your autoexec and config sys to not load up, certain drivers so that you had space,
Those were the days.
Those were dark times. All right, next question. This is from Goram Browncoat. Okay.
I get that reference.
Me too. Is Warduke
Inverting.
my brain just froze on that word for a moment there. Inverting variant stuff. Finn Ursa only dealing damage on the first 2 rows. Intended gameplay. I imagine not, but you never know.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that we actually designed what Warduke was supposed to do to variant positional formation abilities. So I'm not 100% sure what the intended behavior there is. I mean, I could just take the easy route out and be like, well, whatever is happening is intended behavior. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm trying to find Warduke. Where are they? Are they year? They're not year
Warduke?
5. They must
5
be
Duke.
year 6, or were they even older? No. Come on, where are my champions?
Maybe the chat
at?
knows.
Warduke,
If you
year
don't
6.
remember,
There we go.
oh,
Yeah,
year
they
6.
were early year 6. So, chaotic inversion. Most positional formation abilities targets are inverted.
Most.
Yes.
Not all.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing in here that says it shouldn't apply to positional formation abilities that come from variants. So I guess my question would be: Are there some variants where it's not happening, and some where it is? In which case we need to figure that out and get some consistency in there, or is it inverting stuff in pretty much all of them? Yeah, and actually, come to think of it, I thought one of his, I don't have his variants in here, but I thought one of his variants actually inverted all of them so that you would use him to invert them back, or a variant we put out close to him. So I'm pretty sure he is supposed to, but if there are some cases where he's not doing specifically positional formation abilities, then that's something we can maybe look at. He only inverts half of Nova's ability.
But you don't know which
All
half.
right.
Okay.
Hopefully the good half.
Can't promise that. If you invert the good half, does that make them bad?
Well, no, because then they have two bads, and two bads make a good.
Or an airplane? No,
Wait a
it's
minute.
two rights.
If you had a bad and a good, and then you inverted one of them,
All right.
you'd get good no matter what, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because you either invert the
If you're
good, and
claiming
then you
that
get
two
two
bads
bads,
make a
and
good.
two,
Yeah,
two,
if
wrong,
that
two
holds,
wrongs
yeah.
make a right. Yeah, I guess you have to hold that. All right. Anyway.
Enough on that. Next
This
question.
doesn't
Can we
matter.
move on to the next question?
No,
All
we
right.
need to keep on talking about negatives, double negatives.
Okie dokie.
All right.
Next question. All right, he's going to let me do it.
Go for it.
This is from Max IQbert. Stating something. Weekly reminder that 1, Briv needs a cap to his speed item or a feet for 9 jump.
Covered.
We already covered that. Yep.
Yeah.
2, Nurex minigames, isn't functional. They're putting it,
It functions. Just,
fix it.
Actually, you know what? Maybe the typo is intentional because
It's functional?
They actually
They
wrote
wrote
functional,
functional?
not functional. So if it isn't functional, I will take that. And
It's true.
that
It
is
is not
something.
functional.
It's not
Or fun.
functional. Yes, as I mentioned in the sort of greater balance update discussion, Nurex minigame is something that we want to be that we want to have in there. Some sort of fix for that. We are not quite as sure what that fix is going to be as we are about the Briv stuff, but we'll do something for sure. It might involve. The reason I hesitate on it is because it might involve rebalancing Nurex stacks in some way, because they're actually very, very powerful when you get up to 60 stacks. If you're able to do 2 minigames perfectly back to back. So if it's easier to get up to that stack number, we might have to nerf his numbers a little bit to kind of compensate for that. Otherwise, he's just going to be too good.
All right. Next question. This is either from Do57Me73X or it's from Dustmites.
Dustmitix?
I think so. We'll
All
go
right.
with that. We can pretend the numbers are letters.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. And they ask, I've noticed Celice's divine stance is not or isn't affected by Warduke's chaotic inversion skill. Well, this is topical. Is there a reason behind this?
I'm just digging through the design docs today. Let's see. Year 4 for Celice. Is there a reason why Divine Sense does not get inverted? I cannot see a reason why it shouldn't get inverted, so that sounds like that would be a bug.
Okay. Tag it. Let's move on. Next question is from I Got Blunts. Can you add a champion? That's what it says.
Yeah.
You know, that's so big that it takes up 2 seats. Well, not just 2 slots, but 2 seats. Maybe my Crux can eat enough to take over another seat. Oh, he would be happy to purchase the tickets for both. Oh
So
my.
two bench seats?
I mean, they could be asking that, or they could be asking for 2 slots.
There's 2 different sizes, right? One is
yeah.
sort of 2 formation slots, which I think would be interesting, though technically I think Peter and the team would want to murder me. And would be pretty interesting. And we've done that with like escorts. We've had escorts that take up multiple slots, but that's a lot easier because we can just have basically invisible escorts in the other slots that don't do anything. If it's bench seats, I think
that's how you do that one as well, right? Like you just have an invisible additional
Yeah.
champion, and then you'd use that as you were selecting as to whether or not you could drop the champion there or not, based on whether both drops, both slots could
But
accept
in
it.
terms of doing it with bench slots, I think Peter would kill me even more if it's possible to be like more dead than just that, because that sounds like an even bigger tech nightmare. We just do not have anything designed.
We pull out one of the seats, and then we enlarge the others. I mean, I guess we wouldn't necessarily have to, but we could. We just double up.
But then when you're going to like swap, like you have to swap. Like I mean,
Visualizing it would be
I
tricky.
could see how you could do it, but I still think Peter would double kill me, which might alive me.
We covered this already.
depending
It's a
on
double
how-
negative, so
yeah.
just yep.
Yeah, that's a
So I think the
suggestion.
answer on that one
alright.
is probably
probably not.
Probably not.
I think we'd have to be scraping pretty close to the bottom
we'll
of the
save that
barrel.
one for sweeps.
We'll save that one for when we all of a sudden have way more dev time than we normally have. And
that will be when?
Uh,
That's what I thought. Okay.
2040 something? Yeah.
Next question. Oh, it's not a question. This is from Barefoot Monkey. Sorry, this isn't a question. I'd just like to suggest a centaur glitch skin feat for Human that makes him 2 humans in a pantomime horse suit, plus a 3rd human on the front one's shoulders instead of the horse head.
I gotta say, I think we've gotten some of the best skins in the game have come for Human, and Human was one of the Human came about on a little bit on a whim, I think, because we had a plan for a champion in the next event, and then was it Chris who came and was like, I think this would be really funny, and it lined up with
remember.
I think it lined up with a D&D stream or something.
It was 3 kobolds in a trench coat. Right?
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
original reference.
Maybe it was in one of the new storybooks or something, and we were just like, that's really fun, and we need to just do it. And so I think I designed that champion, and we got it implemented within a week. And it was
in the chat. It's Icewind Dale.
Icewind Dale. It was in the Rime of the Frost Maiden book.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's that was a fun one. In terms of this particular skin, I don't know. I feel like it would be a little bit too wide, and we'd have to keep the skin a little bit. This is one that could fit in 2 slots. But
2 humans in a. Could we just make them 2 dwarves? We're gonna dwarves instead of humans, then it'll fit.
Yeah. I mean, it's the width of a horse that I'm concerned about, right?
It's a small horse.
It's
a donkey.
It's like a little miniature horse.
Sure.
Maybe that would make more sense for kobolds. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Next question. This is from Nil23103. I had a bug where I was able to place 11 champions since 1 slot, BBEG over 3, was not shown but affecting the party. Is this a known bug? Where can I report bugs like that?
I have not heard of that bug, but it does sound like a bug.
11 champions.
11 champions in the formation. There was an additional slot. I wonder if it was in the Xerixis campaign, if there was an escort missing or something. I don't know. People in chat are correctly pointing out that we actually already have Flora, who is a centaur, so I guess the width issue is not so much an issue if we just make them the same width as Flora is. That is a point.
Yes.
And a good one.
Okie dokie.
I think we have time for these last 2.
Last 2? Okie dokie. In that case, our penultimate question today is from Billiam Smith, 84. Since you added the new role debuff, will you update Voronika to include a buff for her puppet champion, since she provides a buff for each of his/her roles?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think we will have an update for Voronika. And that is the answer to the question.
Sorry, I got caught up with 3 kittens in a trench coat.
Aww.
All right,
last
question for today is, oh, come on.
This one's just for you.
This can't be a pure feep. Yep.
Long-time watcher, also long-time Quell. He's been asking questions for a couple of weeks
lately,
now. Yeah.
Anyway, that large, unpronounceable combination of characters asks, I studied a games technology course at university 15 or so years ago and found it to be very poor. And from what I hear, those courses have not improved much. What should someone wanting to get into games development be looking for in a university course, and what red flags should they be wary of?
I think this is
5 minutes to go.
I think this is a really
it is a good question.
And this is why I was like, we only have time for 2 more questions. Right. I think if you want to get into game design, I mean, the main way to get into game design is to just start making games. Or I guess into games development. Just start making games. You can grab Unity for free.
Unreal is free.
Unreal is free.
Godot is free.
Godot is free, but you have to figure out how to pronounce it or spell it. And just start following tutorials. Dave and I, we started making games when we were 7, 8, 10, 12. Like, we didn't go to university for it then.
That's true.
Eventually we went to university for computer science, but I mean, like your experience with university, 15 or so years ago, they didn't really have a lot of game-specific stuff.
They do now. I mean, I know our local university here does have a game sort of program that you can take, which has various courses that include graphics and then some game design courses, and then some actual like making. And they do a game maker course, something like that. I mean, I think there's sort of two facets on this that I would highlight. And so, like, if you're looking to get into game development and looking at university courses, certainly any sort of the fundamental programming classes are helpful for that. And sort of the stuff that we run into, I mean, even just like algorithm complexity stuff is important to run.
Yes.
Certainly for performance. But as far as like learning resources for working with modern game engines and technology, the YouTube is an enormous resource. And like there's everything under this. I mean, like when we go to do something that we don't know, we're working with, like, we'll go to YouTube and see, someone talking about this particular Unity feature or that sort of thing, just because it's like, it's just an enormously powerful resource, and it's open and free to everybody to access it. So really, this is one of those things where what you get out of it is often the amount of time you put into it. And so I wouldn't sort of rely on a course if that's something you're interested in. Is just go and find all the resources that you can, and then follow those and go from there. But as far as university level courses, the programming stuff and the algorithm fundamental stuff it's super valuable, but you don't need it to start.
Yeah. I don't know that we have anyone working here who actually did like game development specific courses or like
some
of
the
technical
graphic
university
stuff,
or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some courses these days for games and graphics and stuff like that, and they're useful. But honestly, you're going to get a lot more mileage out of just sitting down and doing it yourself.
Yeah. And it is actually one of those things, because we do hire students, and when we do, one of the key things we look at is what did you do that was outside of your university program, showing that you had a passion for game development. So, cool. All right, well, we are out of time.
That is correct. So if we didn't get to I lost my script. Oh well, hopefully I can remember how to do it. If we didn't get to your question this week, don't fret. I know it says fret in there.
That's true.
Because you will have another opportunity. We'll be live again at this same time next week. At least I think we'll be, next week. But before we go, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Sean and Mars, special guest mod, Sean. And they're the folks who copied your questions into our questions doc and make things awesome in chat.
Of course. And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And according to the script, we like what we do. No, we actually do like what we do. We do like what we do.
Oh, no. All right. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, did I tell you earlier today, I ran into a lamppost.
Oh, no.
It's okay. I only got light injuries.
I thought you actually ran into a light post.